When a street girl shouted, "Don't eat that," no one at the Café Imperial expected what would happen next. Known as the meeting place for the city's richest and most influential, the place exuded luxury and exclusivity. Impeccably dressed waiters glided between marble tables, serving sophisticated dishes and glasses of wine that sparkled in the sunlight. In the air, the scent of fresh coffee and baked bread mingled with the light perfume of the flowers that decorated the room. Sitting at the center of it all was Evelyn Marlowe, a billionaire whose name was synonymous with power. At 65, wearing an emerald green silk dress and a pearl necklace that reflected the light in an almost hypnotic way, Evelyn exuded a presence that made everyone around her take notice. Next to her was Claire, her personal assistant and longtime friend, who maintained impeccable posture and a smile that seemed to be rehearsed. On the table in front of them, a steaming bowl of soup awaited Evelyn, accompanied by a perfectly sliced loaf of bread. The scene seemed peaceful and normal, but for Sophia, an 11-year-old girl standing on the sidewalk across the street, something was terribly wrong. With her hair in disarray and an old backpack slung over one skinny shoulder, Sophia watched the table with attentive eyes. Her stomach rumbled, but she didn't move. Ever since Claire had tilted her hand slightly and poured something into the bowl of soup, the world around Sophia seemed to have stopped. She put something in the soup, Sophia thought, pressing her lips together. Her instinct was screaming at her to do something, but who would believe her? She was just a street girl, invisible to the people rushing past her. Inside the cafe, Evelyn picked up her silver spoon, about to taste the soup. Claire, her face serene, smiled at her. "You're going to love this recipe, Evelyn. It's a new dish from the chef. I made sure to order it especially for you." Sophia could no longer watch in silence. Her heart was pounding as her feet automatically took her to the entrance of the cafe. She pushed open the glass door, ignoring the maitre d's disapproving look, and ran towards Evelyn. "Don't eat that," shouted Sophia, her voice cutting through the buzz of conversation. The whole cafe fell silent. The cutlery stopped clinking, and all eyes turned to the thin girl who was now standing next to Evelyn's table. Evelyn's spoon froze a few centimeters from her lips as she stared at Sophia, confused. Claire was the first to react. Her smile disappeared, giving way to a cold, calculating stare. "Who let that child in here?" she asked, her voice harsh and impatient. Sophia pointed directly at Claire, her hand shaking but her voice firm. "I saw you. You put something in her soup. Don't eat that, please." The air in the cafe became heavy. Evelyn arched an eyebrow, alternating her gaze between Sophia and Claire. "That's a very serious accusation, young lady," said Evelyn, with a tone that was both puzzled and stern. Claire laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's ridiculous, Evelyn. Of course that girl is lying. She probably wants money or food." She looked at Sophia with contempt. "Get out of here before I call security." Sophia felt tears start to form, but she took a deep breath. "I'm not lying. I saw her. She put something on your plate when you were distracted. I know no one will believe me, but it's the truth." Sophia's words made Evelyn hesitate. Something in the girl's voice, in her determination, seemed genuine. She put her spoon back on her plate and leaned back slightly in her chair. "Claire?" Evelyn asked, her voice now filled with a dangerous calm. "Is that true?" Claire feigned indignation, throwing her hands up. "Of course not. You've known me for years, Evelyn. Why would I do something like that? This girl just wants to cause trouble. Let's ignore that." But the whole cafe was watching. Murmurs began to spread around the tables, and some people started whispering to each other. Sophia looked around, feeling the weight of the stares, but refused to back down. "Get someone to test the soup," Sophia insisted. "A doctor, a laboratory, anything. But don't eat it. You could die." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. For the first time, Claire looked nervous. She was gripping the arm of the chair so tightly that her fingers were white. Evelyn noticed this, as well as the fact that Claire was avoiding her gaze. "Why are you so tense, Claire?" asked Evelyn, with cutting calm. "Because this is all ridiculous," exploded Claire. "She's just a street girl. Let's not waste our time with this." Sophia stepped forward, pointing at the plate. "If you don't believe me, then eat it yourself." The challenge left Claire speechless for a moment. She looked at the plate, then at Evelyn, and slumped back in her chair. I don't need to prove anything to anyone," said Claire, her voice wavering. The maitre d', who had been watching the scene from afar, finally approached. "Mrs. Marlowe, should I call the police?" he asked, his voice formal. Evelyn nodded. "Yes, and take my phone. We'll have this soup analyzed immediately." Claire's face turned pale. She tried to get up, but Evelyn held up her hand, ordering her to stay where she was. The entire cafe was now completely silent, waiting to see what would happen next. Sophia felt a small sense of relief that Evelyn seemed to believe her, but she knew that the worst was yet to come. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but the mystery was still far from solved. The sound of the police siren echoed down the street as the murmurs in the Café Imperial grew louder. Evelyn remained seated, her posture rigid, her eyes fixed on Claire. The air was charged with tension. Claire tried to keep her composure, but the sweat on her forehead showed her nervousness. Sophia stood to the side, feeling the weight of everyone's attention, but with her eyes firmly on the billionaire. She knew she couldn't turn back now. The two policemen entered the cafe, assessing the situation with quick, experienced glances. One of them, a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious expression, approached Evelyn. "Ms. Marlowe, we've received a call about a possible incident here. Can you tell us what's going on?" Evelyn pointed to the soup still intact on her table. "This girl claims that my assistant put something in my food. I want this investigated immediately." The policeman looked at Sophia, who swallowed, but kept her gaze steady. "Did you see something?" he asked. Sophia nodded quickly. "I did. She put some liquid in the soup when you weren't looking." "I'm not lying." Claire stepped forward, her tone full of indignation. "This is absurd. She's a street child. She's probably making up this story to attract attention." The policeman raised his hand to silence her, then turned to Evelyn. "Do you want us to test the contents of the soup?" "Absolutely," replied Evelyn without hesitation. "I want to know the truth." Claire laughed nervously. "This is a waste of time. Anyone could have tampered with the soup. How can you be sure it was me?" The policeman's eyes narrowed. "In that case, we'll need the footage from the security cameras. If you haven't done anything wrong, you have nothing to fear." The suggestion was a blow. Claire stood still for a moment before stammering, That's absurd. I won't stand for this ridiculous accusation." "It's not an accusation yet," said the policeman, calmly but firmly. "It's an investigation." Evelyn crossed her arms, her expression impenetrable. "Claire, you're acting very defensively for someone who has nothing to hide." Claire opened her mouth to reply, but was interrupted when the maitre d' returned, holding Evelyn's cell phone. He handed it over with a bow, and she quickly dialed a number. "Dr. Harris? This is Evelyn Marlowe. I need an urgent favor. Meet me at the Café Imperial. It's about something that may have been put in my food," she said, before hanging up. Sophia watched everything with her heart racing. Every second seemed to drag by in endless tension. Claire's gaze burned towards her, full of fury. "Do you think you've gained anything from this, young lady?" said Claire, her voice low and laced with venom. Sophia took a step back, but Evelyn held up a hand to silence Claire. "Stop it. If the girl is lying, the truth will come out. But if she's right—" Evelyn paused, her eyes cold as ice. "Then you'll be responsible for the consequences." The next few minutes were a tense silence until a middle-aged man entered the cafe, carrying a briefcase. "Dr. Harris," greeted Evelyn, pointing to the soup. "I want you to analyze this immediately." The doctor took samples and began his work while everyone watched with attentive eyes. Claire, now cornered, tried a last resort. "Evelyn, this is ridiculous. Years of loyalty, and you're treating me like a criminal on the word of a homeless child?" Evelyn didn't answer. She just stared at Claire, her silence more powerful than any words. The doctor looked up after completing the preliminary tests. He seemed to hesitate, as if choosing his words carefully. "There are traces of a substance in the soup. I can't confirm exactly what it is without more detailed tests, but it could be dangerous." The cafe erupted in murmurs. Evelyn paled, while Claire took a step back, her eyes wide. "That doesn't prove anything," shouted Claire, her voice shaking. "Anyone could have put that in." Sophia interrupted, her voice full of urgency. "I saw you. You did it. Don't try to blame someone else." The policemen exchanged glances before one of them approached Claire. "We're going to need you to come with us, ma'am." Claire stepped back, panic evident on her face. "You're making a mistake," she shouted, but the policeman didn't hesitate. They put the handcuffs on her wrists as she protested furiously. Evelyn remained silent, watching as the woman she had trusted for years was taken away. Sophia stayed where she was, not knowing what to do or say. Finally, Evelyn turned to her, her eyes assessing the girl. "You saved my life, young lady," said Evelyn, her voice soft but firm. "Thank you." Sophia took a deep breath, feeling a wave of relief and emotion at the same time. But the story was far from over. As the police took Claire away for questioning, the Café Imperial slowly began to return to normal. The murmurs still echoed among the customers, but many began to disperse, clearly shaken by what they had witnessed. Evelyn remained seated, her eyes fixed on the soup in front of her, as if she were trying to process everything that had just happened. Sophia continued to stand to the side, unsure of what would happen next. Evelyn looked at the girl, her gaze softer now, but still full of a gravity that denounced the impact of the moment. "What's your name?" she finally asked. "Sophia," replied the girl, her voice low but firm. "Sophia," Evelyn repeated, as if testing the name on her lips. "Why did you do it? Why did you risk everything to warn me?" Sophia swallowed before answering. "Because it was the right thing to do. I couldn't just watch and do nothing. No matter who you are, nobody deserves that." The girl's words were simple, but loaded with a wisdom that seemed greater than her age. Evelyn leaned forward, interlacing her hands. "You have a courage that many people lack. And for that, I owe you my life." Sophia blushed, looking away. "You don't have to thank me. I just did what anyone should do." Evelyn laughed softly, without humor. "Anyone should, but not everyone would. You're special, Sophia." She paused, studying the girl. "And from what I can see, you haven't had an easy life." Sophia hesitated, but finally nodded. "No, I haven't. But that doesn't matter now." Evelyn leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Yes, it does. Where are you living?" Sophia looked down at the floor, her fingers playing nervously with the hem of her worn sweatshirt. "Nowhere, really. I go where I can. I sleep where I can." The billionaire remained silent for a moment, absorbing those words. Then she made a decision. "This ends today." Sophia frowned, confused. "What ends?" Evelyn lifted her chin, her tone now resolute. "You're not going to live like this anymore. You saved me today, Sophia, and I'm going to do the same for you. I'm going to make sure you have a safe place to live, food on the table, and a chance to build a future." The girl's eyes widened, disbelief evident in her expression. Are you serious?" "Yes." Evelyn smiled for the first time, a small but sincere smile. "No one should face the world alone, least of all someone with the heart you have." In the days that followed, Evelyn put what she had promised into practice. Not only did she provide a safe place for Sophia to live, but she also took care of her education and well-being. News of the incident at the Café Imperial spread quickly, and Sophia's courage was recognized by many. Journalists even wrote about the brave-hearted girl who saved the billionaire. Meanwhile, Claire faced the legal consequences of her actions, and her attempt to harm Evelyn revealed deeper secrets about her envy and greed. But for Evelyn, the focus was no longer on Claire or what she tried to do. It was on Sophia and the opportunity to repay the selfless gesture that had saved her life. One day, as they walked together in the garden of Evelyn's mansion, Sophia looked at her with shining eyes. "Why are you doing all this for me? I'm just some girl." Evelyn stopped and bent down to Sophia's height. "You're not just a girl. You're the reason I'm alive today. And more than that, you reminded me that a person's value is not in how they look or how much money they have, but in what they are willing to do for others." Sophia smiled, feeling a new warmth in her chest, something she had never experienced before, belonging. "And now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story? Have you ever met someone who had the courage to do the right thing, even when it was difficult? Share it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one. See you next time.